Hello, my name is Marcello. Welcome to the Source Audio Video Design Group's YouTube channel. All of us from TSAV wish you a safe and happy new year. Today we will compare the Bathys HiFi Bluetooth active noise cancelling headphones against the Bowers & Wilkins Px8 flagship wireless active noise cancelling headphones. This video will primarily discuss how the Bathys stacks up against the Px8 from a sound quality perspective and briefly discuss build quality and how comfortable the headphones are. Stay tuned for a full video on the Bowers & Wilkins wireless headphones. In that video, I will compare the Px8 to the Px7S2 from a build and sound quality perspective and discuss the different versions of the Px8, going into more detail on the B&W smartphone app. So let's kick off the video with how these wireless headphones compare on paper. The B&W Px8 weighs in at 320 grams compared to the heavier 350 grams of the Bathys. The Px8 uses the more current Bluetooth technology 5.2 with adaptive aptX, aptX HD, aptX, AAC, and SBC, offering A2DP, AVR-CP, HFP, HSP, and BLE generic attributes for Bluetooth profiles. In comparison, the Bathys offers 5.1 multi-point Bluetooth technology with SBC, AAC, aptX, and adaptive aptX for their audio codecs. Both headphones claim a 30-hour wireless playback time, with the B&W Px8 giving you 7 hours of playback off a 15-minute charge, and the Bathys giving you 5 hours of playback from a 15-minute charge. The Px8 uses hybrid active noise cancellation with ambient pass-through and a wear detection sensor versus the two active noise cancellation modes of the Bathys, which also has a transparency mode. The Bathys transparency mode sounds slightly more natural, but it's relatively close. In my use, I found the Px8 to edge out the performance of the Bathys for noise cancellation. However, this comes with a caveat, as when activated, the noise cancellation on the Px8 does cause a change to the quality of sound of the headphones when music is playing, seemingly increasing the bass signature. After activating the noise cancellation, I had to pull back the bass in the B&W iPhone app for some genres of music. The Bathys sound signature always stays the same, as the ANC is always on, and at the time of this video, you can never turn it off even if you are listening in a quiet environment. I tested both headphones on walks with my dog, multiple gym sessions, sitting in a coffee shop, or working at my desk, and I have to give the edge to the Px8 for noise cancellation. For phone calls, I feel both headphones do the job. However, after talking to several people on the phone, everyone I spoke with preferred my voice and the clarity of my voice from the Px8, as well as I liked the more natural sounding voice of the person I was talking to from the B&W Px8. The Px8 uses 4 mics for their ANC and 2 mics for phone calls, whereas the Bathys uses 8 mics in total. So more mics didn't improve the performance for noise cancellation or phone calls in my use, but it did create a more natural sound from the transparency mode on the Bathys. The Px8 utilizes 40mm dynamic full-range carbon drivers with a THD of less than 0.1% versus a THD of less than 0.2% from the Bathys, which utilizes 40mm aluminum magnesium M-shaped dome drivers. Both headphones position buttons on the sides of their cups to activate their different modes and features, or can use their respective iPhone and Android apps. As far as build quality and comfort go, I would give the edge to the B&W Px8 for its sleeker, more low-profile design and more premium quality materials, which include cast aluminum arms and soft, luxurious Napa leather trim. In contrast, the Bathys use more plastic in their build and a less comfortable, lower-quality headband system. I think the Px8 also fit better on my head with a snug, secure fit and a more low-profile look, whereas the Bathys have much larger cups with less comfortable pads and attract much more attention when their glowing flame logo is on. Of course, this will come down to the shape of your head and your preferences for the type of look you are going for. The Px8 feels better built overall in my opinion. Regarding the provided iPhone or Android apps for each of the headphones, I think both could use some improvement. However, the Focal Name app gives you more choices regarding the EQ with 5 bands of adjustment, whereas the Px8 only currently allows you to adjust the bass and treble. I will link to both headphones in the video description so you can read about more tech specs and see the current prices. At the time of this video, the Bathys is currently $799, $100 more than the B&W Px8. So let's get into my favorite part of the video: how do these two wireless headphones stack up from a sound perspective? I formulated all my impressions using my iPhone with Rune Arc. To keep things equal, I will share my impressions of the Px8 with noise cancellation on, since the Bathys always has noise cancellation on. However, adjustments can be made to each of the headphones within their respective apps, and listeners who prefer a more neutral bass signature may want to reduce the bass a bit when listening to the Px8 when noise cancellation is active. With that said, if you like to listen to hip-hop, R&B, pop, EDM, electronica, and other more modern genres of music, you may find the additional bass of the Px8 when noise cancellation is active to be enjoyable. Listening first to the Weeknd's Dawn FM album and the first 4 tracks of the album Dawn FM, Gasoline, How Do I Make You Love Me, and Take My Breath. Easily one of my favorite openings to a pop album in a long time. The Px8 has an exciting signature that works so well with this type of production, with deep, hard-hitting sub-bass, crystal clear synths, and present, well-rounded vocals from the Weeknd. In comparison, the Bathys trades the harder-hitting sub-bass of the Px8 for more mid-bass punch and a slightly more congested, intimate-sounding soundstage, placing the Weeknd's vocals a bit closer on their stage. The vocals tend to blend a bit more with the bass line on How Do I Make You Love Me when listening to the Bathys. In comparison, the Px8, with a bit less mid-bass emphasis, allows his vocals to be better separated and more easily defined from the rest of the production on the song. The Px8 performs a bit better from a soundstage perspective, giving more air on the stage with slightly better image definition for these tracks. The Bathys hits a bit harder, sounding punchier and more dynamic in the mid-bass, but expressing a bit looser in the sub-bass, which some may prefer for the extra rumble and others may prefer the tighter slam and punch of the Px8 in the sub-bass region. Both headphones are enjoyable with this album, and it will come down to your preferences. Listening next to Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms album, So Far Away and Money for Nothing. The Px8 has a well-separated soundstage with great imaging, but Mark's vocals sound less present and a bit distant on So Far Away than I prefer. Listening to the Focal Bathys, the guitar has a bit less body and definition to its sound, along with a bit less prominent snare drum. Mark's vocals also sound a bit closer on the soundstage when listening to So Far Away. Listening to Money for Nothing, the Px8 again presents a more forward-sounding full-bodied guitar and a touch more warmth from Mark's vocals than the more neutral-sounding Bathys. The treble is a bit more energetic and sparkly sounding from the Px8, which balances reasonably well with their bass, whereas the Bathys has a more neutral sub-bass, a bit of emphasis in the mid-bass, and a more relaxed treble. So again, it will depend on your preferences, but I was able to enjoy both headphones. The Px8 initially sounds more exciting and immediate than the Bathys, but the Bathys sounds a bit more balanced with better timbre and less in your face on this track. Next, I listened to Bob Moses' The Silence in Between album, specifically Seen It Comin'. One of the first things I notice is how the Bathys present the vocals a bit nasally compared to the Px8. Both headphones deliver the bass line differently on this track, with the Bathys giving more rumble from the bass line with ample punch. The guitar is more present and better defined when listening to the Px8, along with the better separated, smoother sounding vocals. The less mid-bass of the Px8 doesn't allow them to sound as dynamic as the Bathys, but it does allow the soundstage layering to communicate better in my opinion. Listening next to Nas, It Was Written, specifically the song Affirmative Action. The punchier dynamic sound of the Bathys plays well with this track, allowing the bass line to complement the badass lyrics of one of my all-time favorite Nas songs. The B&W Px8 is also enjoyable, with good sub-bass, however the vocals sound a bit sharper and more forward-sounding, displaying a harder edge to their character, with not enough emphasis in the mid-bass to bring the best out of this track for my preferences. I listened to many other albums and genres of music, including Melody Gardot's Live in Europe album, Snarky Puppy's We Like It Here, Yo-Yo Ma's Six Evolutions Bach Cello Suites album, and Lang Lang's The Chopin album, to name a few. Honestly, the quality of sound regarding detail retrieval, soundstage, and imaging is very close. The biggest standouts for me were the harder-hitting sub-bass and more layered-sounding soundstage of the B&W Px8 versus the more natural timbre and punchier dynamic sound of the Focal Bathys. Neither pair of headphones have a vast, open, exaggerated HD800S soundstage. I believe the Bathys has a slightly more neutral tuning than the Px8, with a more relaxed treble region, which was especially noticeable on Snarky Puppy's Lingus with the additional cymbal energy and splash the Px8 presented. In contrast to the Bathys, the Px8 possesses a bit more treble energy and sub-bass punch. Both headphones have good detail retrieval at their respective prices. For listening to music, I would say it could go either way, and I enjoyed both headphones, and it came down to the track and how it was produced, if I had a favorite, and it wasn't always a clear choice based on the genre of music. I think the Px8 could be perceived to have more of an immediate, more analytical sound that some listeners may find fatiguing when A/B comparing to the Bathys. In contrast, the Bathys has a more neutral but fun-sounding signature due to its dynamic-sounding mid-bass that will appeal to many listeners. I also think if you're not A/B comparing the headphones, both headphones, after you adjust to their different sound signatures, are enjoyable to listen to. The one area, however, I think the Px8 smokes the Bathys that nobody is talking about is for watching movies. Watching several movies at home, the sub-bass, soundstage layering, and better separated vocals for dialogue scenes play well to the strengths of the Px8 for watching movies. As always, I encourage you to listen to both headphones side by side to formulate your impressions, as we all hear a bit differently and differ on what we value or prefer in sound quality. We have these fantastic wireless headphones in our showroom headphone bar, so if you are in SoCal, stop by and hang out with us and have your own listening party. If you are interested in trading up your old headphones or other gently used audio gear for a new set of headphones, check out the links in the video description to our trade-up program, and don't forget, we will price match other authorized dealers. In the description below, I will link to our website and more info on the headphones and other products discussed during this video. So let's start the conversations in the video comments on which of these two headphones you prefer the most and why. While you are there, smash that like button for us and subscribe today for more headphone videos. Until next time, friends, remember, let the music be your guide.